Who wants to start? You want to start, Sips?
Can you?
Okay.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Triforce podcast. Oh, today I'm joined by Sips.
Hey, hi. How's everybody doing?
Goodness, nice to hear your voice, Sips.
Yeah, thanks so much. Guess what I'm doing right now?
Sitting on the toilet.
No, I'm ordering some teats for my baby's bottles. You like that?
Teats.
You're ordering teats.
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 Yeah, I gotta order some teats. She's
Who are you going with? Tommy Tippy or someone
Nah,
else?
Philips. All the time, baby.
Okay.
Philips Advent 6M Plus Superflow. Yeah.
Oh, are they the official one for the
Official sponsors of the 2015 Summer Olympics. So all the athletes can get the good flow from their milky mamas. Get some big muscles.
You need that growth hormone.
That's right.
Yeah.
You got to get it in there somehow.
Good point.
I only use Philips teats. They're the best.
They are much easier to suckle on.
When you need a teat, think of Philips.
Enormous
You
flow.
could always trust Philips for a very sucky teat.
It was Prince Philip's company, Philips Teats. Yes, Philips
Was it?
Teats.
Ghastly teats.
Ghastly. Those other teats are untrustworthy foreign teats. These are good old English teat.
Oh, man. Oh,
Oh,
jeez.
good. Pete Flax, how are you?
Oh, I'm absolutely fucking exhausted.
I bet. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Oh, I got here on the 23rd of February,
Wow.
and it's now the 8th of March. So we had the 24th, I don't think we did anything. And then from the 25th until today, we've had one day off, and it's been very, very long days. Very, very, very long days. Let me think. On average, I'd go in at about 4 p.m., and we've been getting back at about 2:30 in the morning.
Jeez.
Okay.
And it's just been like long series and lots of sitting around watching Dotes. And quite honestly, I understand that you know this guy, is it Hassan? Is that his name? He's a streamer, I think his name is Hassan.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, so he did a some stream where he was talking about how I don't want to get into I haven't looked beyond the basic clip that I saw. But he said something about how after streaming for a bunch of hours, he was tired. And people were basically complaining and saying, oh, he's rich. There's no way he should complain, blah, blah, blah. I don't know any of the details about what really he said, but I saw people's responses. And generally it was, you've got a job that everyone else would want, so you should shut up and not complain. And I didn't think that was really fair because it's still human to get tired. And even if this is a job that I love doing, it is still tiring doing this for like very long days and very late finishes. So I feel justified in not complaining, but grumbling about work.
I think
a
it's
little bit.
because you think you shouldn't be allowed to grumble about it as
Yeah.
well. Like, well, there is a part of us which is like, I am very lucky to be doing
Of
this.
course.
And I think anyone who's doing a job that they're passionate about, they can get tired about it, and they can complain about it. They can grumble about being tired because that's like the main thing humans grumble about.
Yeah,
So,
work.
oh, something of mine hurts, or I'm
Right.
tired, or
Yeah.
someone was mean to me. You know.
Yeah, it's. I think it's so. Either way, the thing is, as a job, this isn't like if we're doing like a 10-hour shift or whatever. It's not like it's hard graft all the way. Like I'm not spending 10 hours chipping coal out of an ore vein or whatever. It's like watching video games and then talking about them. And it's not like physically demanding or anything like that.
No.
And quite honestly, especially for my role, I don't even really need to like do any in-depth analysis and bring up stats and clips and stuff like that. I just go on there to be a sort of clown. But it is tiring to have to think of stuff to say, to improvise, to ad-lib sort of on the spot, to be on broadcast, and to try to be sort of up for that length of time. And sometimes the game is incredibly dull, and you have to go in there and talk about it, and then, we want to try and entertain people and all the rest of it. And after 2 weeks of that, it is hard. It is hard work, and it is generally mentally tiring. So last night, we had the chance to finish on time, like 12-ish, and all we needed was this game to end. And the one team won because they're best of threes. One team won the first game, and then in the second game, they're doing well, and the other team started coming back into it. And if the other team wins, it's now 1-1, and we have to go to a game 3, and it's not going to be an early finish. And we just all really felt like we deserved this early finish because we had so many late nights. And
I love that you're rooting for the team based on how soon you can go home. That's such an old man.
I know, but we're like, oh, come on, wrap it up so we can go home. You know, we were sort of like that attitude. But this team was definitely going to win. Game and Gladiators had come back into the game. There's no way they lose this game. And one of the players made, I wouldn't even call it a mistake. It was like an act of God that he died. His hero died and he had to buy back. And it was like a disaster. Changed the entire tempo of the game. And it was something so unbelievable. I've never seen it in Dota before. And everyone was like, what? So that happened. And it felt like we deserved a break and we got it. So we got home and we were like, oh, we just, everyone was so wiped out. Because the night before, I woke up in the morning, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I was so tired. My body was just broken. My sleep schedule was fucked. We were all exhausted. It was rough.
I want to say, like, you willed it to happen. Do you know what I mean? The energy of you guys in the room, like, somehow spiritually crossed over to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I just want to go to bed as well." Maybe. They've played so many games and are knackered as well. These players,
so.
Right,
I think he'd had enough as well.
So it's just the finals left, is it?
Yeah, so we've got tomorrow and the day after. That's just 2 series, a best of 3 and a best of 3 on one day, a best of 3 and a best of 5 on the next day. So
it's a long event, eh?
Very.
Jeez.
Like it was. They normally do these things. You'll have like a group stage. Yeah, literally 2 weeks. 2 weeks in Dota every day, apart from like 2 days.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I totally know where you're coming from. I mean, when you're in a foreign place, and it's not you don't have your mod cons from being at home. You're in a hotel room, I assume, and it might be nice and everything, but at the same time, you're actually going out and staying out by looks plus sounds of it for like 10 or 11 hours a day. And even when you're not on camera, you have to be you're on, right? Because you're surrounded by people and you're in a brightly lit stage, and you know that in an X amount of time when this game finishes, you're going to be on camera again. Like it is immensely like draining. It is, I mean, I get tired. Like I always say, like, oh God, why am I so tired when all I've done is got a taxi to an airport, flown for 4 hours, and then got a taxi? Why am I tired after traveling?
I find the most tiring thing about being like, doing an event or being out in public or whatever is that I got to like suck my gut in a lot more. Like when I'm at home, it's just flopping out. I don't give a damn.
Right.
I'm sitting there like the World of Warcraft guy at his desk. But when I'm out, I got to suck it in.
Of course.
I got some street cred to maintain. Everybody thinks I've got a bitchin' 6-pack, and I do underneath all the fat. It's down there somewhere, but I got to suck it in big time.
It's also you're around other people, right? So it's not like when I'm at home. Obviously, when you're with your family and everything, you're way more relaxed. Whereas when you're around people, like these are people I've known for years, like colleagues and stuff like that. But there's the offices that we're at. You're going around. You're in someone's place of work. We've got like a green room, which is really nice this year, where we sort of chill out and watch the games and talk. But the games are like an hour long.
It's hard when you're somewhere like that for 2 weeks, doing that every day, socializing a lot more than you're used to and stuff. It's hard to decompress as well every day.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where you just can't, and then I think that just gets more and more on top of you as time goes on. Probably easier to just do like a 2-3 day event, but like 2 solid weeks that's a lot. I think that would make anyone tired.
Yeah, well, it's been I've never done the 2 weeks before. I've only ever come and done 1 week. Like normally for Dream League, it's a 2 week event, and I'll do the second week because someone can't do the whole week, so I'll replace someone who could do 1 week, and I'll do the second week or whatever. So, but I've been here for the whole thing. I'm doing it again sort of later this year with another event. So I just figured, while I can still do this stuff, I should do as much as I can. So I've kind of committed to doing quite a lot of Dota stuff this year. You said. Yeah.
But you really changing, you're regretting it now, that
deeply,
choice.
Deeply. No, I'm only kidding. No, I'm looking forward to it. But it is, God, I'd forgotten how hard these long events are.
You've really thrown yourself in with both feet this year. Do you think that you should be going the other way? Do you think you should be like, taking more of like pushing to do the gardening, pop down to the local village hall.
No, I'm not that old yet. I figured once I get to 50, which is like 2 years away, right? Because I'm going to be 48 later this month. In 3 weeks' time, I'll be 48. So in another 2 years, I'll be 50. I'll be celebrating my 50th birthday. Being 50 and being on an esports panel, at that point, people might be like, this guy's too old. Let's get some. You know what I mean?
Yes, but
it's sort of a landmark.
I think you are like Patrick Stewart, kind of ageless, right?
Ageless.
People already think you're ancient.
That's
but
true.
actually, you're only 47, right?
Right.
When Patrick Stewart started doing Star Trek, I don't think he was in his... I think he was in his 40s, but not his late 40s.
Let's have a look.
And he's looked kind of that same age ever since,
So Star Trek Next Generation, first episode was 1987. Patrick Stewart was born in 1940, so he was 47.
Wow.
So he was my age.
What, when he started the Next Generation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it so.
Make it so.
Exactly.
Make me old.
Engage.
So,
yeah.
Make me old.
Make me old.
Did you watch? Did you watch?
Deanna Troy. Suck me off.
Oh god, no. She was so hot.
Oh my god.
I watched. Red Letter Media did a video where they sort of did a compilation of all the little mistakes in Star Trek Next Gen, but not the mistakes you would think. It was little production errors that I think now that the show is in HD are even more glaringly obvious. Because if you watch the original broadcast on a TV, it was all a bit fuzzy. Like SD back in the day, regular old telly, you can really see shit. Like it was really pretty bad. Whereas now you could see every single detail. So watch the video. It's Red Letter Media. It's called like Plinkett's Star Trek Blunders or something.
Right.
And little things like, actors put little marks down, like the production put tiny marks down on the set for actors to hit. You can see little marks everywhere, little bits of tape, and they'll stand on it exactly like that's their mark. And you'll see old marks that have been left from previous scenes still there.
That's great.
Stains on all the carpets, literal big splat stains all over the carpets.
I love this stuff because once you start seeing it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
I really like when they take a show that was filmed in 16:9, like the old TV square, but then they've...
That's not 16, but that was 4:3.
Sorry, 4:3. And then they've but they've obviously filmed it in... They get somehow, I don't know how, they have it in 16:9 and you can see sometimes like camera people there and people holding lights and, just bits of the set where it cuts off. You know what I mean?
I think because they would have filmed it with the same cameras you use for film. And then you just edit it down to 4:3. Like, I don't think you can film not in 16:9 if that's the format of the camera, I would assume. So I guess they're filming it as if it were for film, and they're just going, just take the middle bit. And so it's like, and they just cut it maybe. I can't imagine, because it would have been on film. It wouldn't have been digital back then. It would have been film, right? The 1987. So they would have had to use the same cameras. You wouldn't get a special camera for 4:3.
God, it's so weird that that you think that they would be using the original film.
Yeah, so they've got the film, so you can upscale it to HD because you just got the film. I mean,
the weird thing about TNG is that it doesn't look... It has such a unique look to it, the whole thing. The lighting, the sets, like the uniforms. It's so out of this world, right? You don't ever sort of... Well, I think you may be doing some of the movies. You don't really see the actual real world, the real world, right? And so it sort of is fairly timeless. Like, it's obviously fucking ancient now. It's like 30...
It's so old
35
now.
years old, right?
Yeah.
And so... But look at anything else from the 80s.
It looks like shit. It really does. A lot of TV in the 80s looks like shit. Something about Star Trek, they did a bloody good job. But something you won't be able to not see now if you go back and watch it, they used black paper to cover up reflections in the set from the lights on the camera. So they made this shiny set for the bridge. And the problem is it was all reflective. And you're shooting lights at it, and they'll reflect back, and you'll see movements and cameras and people in the reflection of the set. It's like they've created a mirror, and they're trying to film opposite it. So they covered it up with just chunks of black cardboard and paper that they sort of taped to the bits of the set that were reflective. And when you look now, there's Worf going, "Captain, we're under attack," and behind him, it's just like a kid's collage of black paper covering all the reflective bits. You see the boom mic reflected in the fucking set all the time. people come in, doors that don't close properly, because obviously there were people just sliding them manually. So doors
the doors are famous.
It's so
because
good. It's a really
they had
good
these
video.
really fancy sliding doors in the show, but
It's just two lads pulling it.
famously difficult.
But honestly, it is so funny. Watch the video. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, I've been watching TNG recently. I watch it every now and then. And it's more comforting, I think, because I used to come home on Tuesday nights and watch it after school. Do you know what I mean? And so it's got that. And I think some people have the same thing with things like Buffy.
Mrs. F's favorite show, Buffy.
Of the time. Yeah.
And Angel, which was an off.
Angel
or whatever. Yeah, Angel was a spin-off from Buffy.
David Borealis.
He was a vampire, but he was like a goody vampire.
Right.
And there was that guy Spike, who was very 90s. I don't think you'd get someone looking like him being in a TV show now.
Spike
with spiky hair.
Yeah, he had spiky hair.
I don't know anyone who has spiky hair apart from anime characters.
What was it? Michael Hall, was that his name? The guy who was like, he was in the coffee adverts and then he was in Buffy. He was like the professor. Can't remember what his name was.
Yes. That's Michael Hall was Dexter. You're thinking of the other guy. Yes.
Yeah.
The guy who plays Worf.
No. Anthony Stewart Head.
Yes.
He did the coffee adverts. And then that, as far as I can tell. The gold blend couple for the Nescafe blend
the
coffee
adverts.
Yeah, for 6 years. It was him in the gold blend adverts. He's a real smug prick in the adverts. Then he does Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And as soon as I saw him, I was like, I can't take this show seriously.
He's good in it, though, actually.
I never watched like Buffy or Angel or any of those shows. I think it's maybe not the right demographic or whatever.
It wasn't for me either.
I remember
the original movie. Let me think. The original movie, didn't it have Donald Sutherland in?
I remember when I was a teenager, a lot of people that I hung around with in high school used to drop everything to watch new episodes of Beverly Hills 90210 as well, which I was never a fan of either.
I don't think I ever watched that.
Yeah,
never a fan.
But I remember some of the people I hung out with, they loved it. I think they had like older brothers and sisters or whatever who watched it as well. Maybe that was part of the appeal. I don't know, but I just remember it being sought after. So it was a weird.
There's been a new series of Frasier. I haven't actually watched it, but it got me into watching the old ones, and I've watched back, like 10 seasons of Frasier.
It's the best, one of the best sitcoms ever made at its peak.
It is.
It was so good.
It's got real shonky episodes, but it is very good.
Yeah,
it holds up okay. Again, it was filmed early 2000s, late 90s, and it looks like shit, really, comparatively.
It wasn't even early 2000s. It was like early to mid 90s when it started, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it's so
I'm
basic.
sure it was.
Like every time they're in a fucking car, you can tell they're in a studio. Every time, it's so cheaply made.
Yeah.
93, 93 till 2004.
I guess it's a lot like Friends is, and Friends often seems very cheaply made, right?
Yeah.
Like they are just basically in the apartment. There's occasionally another set, but it's almost entirely based on them chatting and bouncing around the apartment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Frasier, some of the episodes that sucked. If you remember Daphne, we've spoken about Frasier before on this podcast for sure, because I know we're big fans of it.
I watch it all the time, yeah.
The episodes where Daphne's family are involved, those suck. And the ones like the whole thing with her being, I'm a bit psychic, that kind of went off. They just pretended that never happened. Later on in the show, it's like they didn't really know what to do with her character. I think early on they were like, she's the British sort of woman looking after Martin. Let's give her a funny little thing. She thinks she's psychic. And then after a couple of seasons, they were like, let's just pretend that never happened and just move on. And the whole focus of the show was like Frasier, but then the subplot was Niles loves Daphne, right? Like that was the big subplot, was that he's in love with Daphne, and it's like this unrequited obsession that he has. And Frasier knows that he's in love with Daphne, but at the moment that he gets it on with Daphne, the show goes to shit. It was like they just kind of forgot that was actually one of the best bits of it.
Yeah, well, I think it was this thing where it developed though, right? You could tell it developed. Like originally it was just supposed to be, just a silly situation where this guy in his marriage has a crush on the hot housewife, and so there's lots of good jokes there, like where she's bending over and all this, so many of the, and obviously David Hyde Pierce does a great job
Brilliant.
as like with physical comedy as well.
Him and Frasier, like that. Niles Frasier, one of my favorite sort of two characters when they're together. They're just brilliant. There are so many great episodes in that show. I have very fond memories of it because I watched it when it was on TV. When Mrs. F had left for work in the morning, it was just me and the baby. Like this is when we had our first. And you know, in the morning we're just sitting around there before we go off to a play group or I take it to the park or whatever. We're kind of chilling out, and they ran 2 episodes a morning in sequence, the entire series. I watched the whole thing.
I've done the same thing.
So much.
Yeah.
There's like 260 episodes.
Oh, it's insane.
It's
fun watching it in order though. And you get like, you know, you're not waiting when it was, you know, when it was airing. It was prime time. You know, you had to wait. There was a new episode every week on a Thursday night at 9 o'clock or whatever. But watching it this way, you can get through it a lot quicker and it's a lot more enjoyable. It's a bit like Seinfeld too, you know, you can rewatch it in order.
I think that's because the quality is like generally it's high, but like sometimes it's not. And so sometimes the episodes are there's a few stinkers in there.
There are some great ones though. I mean, the one where he's got the senator and the senator believes in aliens and he gives a speech about his support for this politician. And then he has a conversation with him where he reveals that he's into aliens. And now he has to give the same speech, but now knowing that the guy is into aliens, it changes the entire tone of the speech. It's absolutely brilliant writing. It's so
really
good.
Clever.
And he has to, like, his delivery changes because obviously he now knows what the audience knows. So it's amazing how you can take the same piece of text and once you change the context, the entire context of that text changes. If you haven't seen it, find it on YouTube. It is magic writing. It is so good.
Nice.
So you know what I did this morning? I was looking up forgotten disasters.
Forgotten disasters.
Forgotten disasters.
Right.
Things that perhaps people aren't aware of or have forgotten about or that kind of dipped out of the public radar.
Yeah. So like
there was
mine cave-ins and stuff that have just been long forgotten from a long time ago.
Yeah, just something that it happened like over 100 years ago, or sometimes even just like 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Or sometimes even 30 years ago. And people have just kind of, it's just a thing that happened and we've moved on.
Right.
But it's like some of these are so unbelievable that you just think, how the hell did I never know about this? There was a TikTok where there was a sort of list of these. So one of them was the Tenerife airport disaster, which was the worst aviation disaster in history.
Jeez.
Have you heard of it?
No?
Yes, I have. Well, I've been to Tenerife a few times, so I know about it. And it's quite famous, actually.
I never heard of it.
Within the aviation.
Within the aviation community.
It's one of the biggest, like...
it's the deadliest in aviation
tolls.
history. 583 dead.
Jesus.
61 injured.
Wow.
Christ.
This was 2 planes collided. This was on the runway. They collided because one of them was on the runway and the other one thought they'd been cleared for takeoff and there was like a miscommunication. Comes herring on the runway, smacks into the other plane. Huge explosion. Like 60 people, 61 people survived.
2 747s collided. Oh,
yeah.
1977.
So here's what I didn't realize. The reason that this happened, well, obviously was pilot error and all the rest of it. But the reason that those 2 planes had been diverted to a different airport in Tenerife was because of something called the Canary Islands Independence Movement.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There was a terrorist organization who wanted the separation of the Canary Islands. This is also something I had never heard of. This was their sort of, you know, they didn't cause this attack directly, but indirectly, the airplanes had been diverted to Tenerife because of activity by this lot at an airport. They set off a bomb at an airport. It didn't kill anyone, but it injured people. But people forget in the 70s, there were so many terrorist organizations, including the Canary Islands Independence Movement. I just think you've got all these other armed factions and genuinely large terrorist group. And then these lads from the Canary Islands, which is like a tiny population base. See, independence for the Canary Islands. It's like, how many of you are there? 3 of us.
I mean, the Canary Islands is interesting because they are this. I go on holiday there. Well, I used to go on holiday there as a kid a few times, and it's a very common place for Brits to go on holiday because it's hot all year round, right? It's basically just off the coast of Morocco, or actually, it's off the coast of Western Sahara, which is a country in Africa which is kind of occupied by Morocco. It's not. It's a bit of a weird one. Anyway, there's nothing really in Western Sahara. It's just sand.
Yeah.
But a lot of the beaches, the expensive hotel beaches on the Canary Islands, they just ship over the sand from there. They just literally drive a boat over to the Western Sahara, fill it up with sand, and bring it back and dump it. And that's like a beautiful beach they now have outside their hotel. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, the Canary Islands it's a lovely place like to go on holiday because you can guarantee sunshine. I'm actually going there in 2 weeks' time, and I went with Oz in November.
Yeah, and her mum
and her mother, which was fantastic. Had a lovely time.
I went there about 3 years ago with Mrs. F and the kids. It's really nice. It's a really lovely.
It's really
island.
nice.
Yeah.
The Islands of Eternal Spring, they're called, because it's always like, and just nice. I think it's actually called the Canary Islands. The word canary comes from like canary ass, like dogs, I think.
Oh, really?
Canary ass.
Not like canary the bird, but like dogs. Because I think apparently like
Dog
back
ass.
in the
Why
day.
kiss my canary ass? My red canary ass.
Bright red canary ass.
There've always been a stopping over point, for ships, right? And so I think that a lot of dogs got loose on them.
And then they took over the island, and now they're serving drinks in bars.
Yeah, but it's honestly a good place to go. I think maybe this sort of independent stuff, maybe it came after the Second World War, with these generations of the greatest generation kind of vibe, the people who fought in the war and were very strong about independence and freedom, and like I don't know, like it definitely feels like a thing of its time, right?
Yeah,
like because certainly Spain had a civil war during the war, and I think the Canary Islands had been involved in some way as a retreat point for the government for a while, or what was left of it. I can't remember. There was something going on, but you can imagine how this sort of stuff happens, certainly. And although it doesn't feel like the Canary Islands would have had a very long history in the same way that somewhere like Cornwall or Catalonia might have, whatever,
Yeah, I mean, when were they? When was it sort of populated? Because I don't think it didn't have any native population, I would guess, because I don't think they've. Let me have a look. History, ancient. Before the arrival of humans, the Canaries were inhabited by prehistoric animals, including the giant lizard, the Tenerife and Gran Canaria giant rats, and giant prehistoric tortoises. This is the land of the giants.
Nice.
Well, they were delicious though. So
although the original settlement of what I now call the Canary Islands is not entirely clear, they think that indigenous peoples were living there at least 2,000 years ago, but possibly 1,000 years before that, and that they basically were related to the Berbers on the nearby North African coast. So the Berbers.
Interesting. It is interesting to discuss some of these places. It depends how far offshore you are, right, to get human settlement, right? Because
you gotta
back
find
in the day, it was easier to colonize America from Europe, by going all the way through Siberia and across the land bridge than it was to go out into the middle of the ocean and get onto this flipping island.
I mean, you got to know it's there. You don't just set off and hope you hit an island. I mean, geez. But I guess if you're sailing from somewhere to somewhere else, you might go past and be like, fucking hell, lads, there's land there. Let's make a note of that. Then you tell the Admiralty or whoever, and they send some lads back to explore it. Find a bunch of Berbers living there, and they're like, we could fucking have them. And then you come back with some lads in a boat and you nick it. That was the way. It was the way we did things for hundreds of years.
Yeah. I'm surprised no Vikings made it down there, because they were going all through the Med. If they'd just gone a little bit further down the coast.
But I think generally if you're heading, let's say you're heading from Europe down to go around Africa.
They're following the coastline.
Yeah,
I mean, this is how
coastline.
a lot of stuff.
Because like in Civ, they had boats that could only go in coast tiles, not sea tiles.
Right, that's my education as well. That's true.
So did I mention the campaign for North Africa on our last podcast?
No.
Vaguely remember this.
Did I mention the board game campaign for North Africa?
Oh yes,
you did.
I did. Damn it! I just want to I want to talk about it.
You just want to talk about it all the time, don't you?
I downloaded the rules.
Oh my god, man!
You have really you've had a lot of free time over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, between games or when there's a pause or something, we're just kind of sitting.
It's weird the kind of stuff you get into like when you're away from home too, right? You don't have all of your resources, so you sort of like you make do with what you've got, and sometimes that leads you down some very weird rabbit holes.
Is this the one which is said that a full game takes 1,500 hours?
1,500 hours, and it's 10 player if you want to do it properly.
If you and your group plays for 3 hours a week, you'd wrap up the campaign in about 20 years.
Jesus.
Right? Yeah, it's incredible.
Holy Lord.
I thought we could do a 24-hour stream.
Oh God, I thought you were going to say 24-year.
No, 24-hour stream of the game. You get 20 people, 10 per team. You do it in 2 shifts. You could even get 30 people and do it in 3 shifts. Everybody does 8 hours. and it's 24/7 stream. You'd have to get a printout of the board to make it much bigger, big pieces, and you'd have like sideline reporters covering the war, the whole thing. It would be, I don't know if people would ever watch it, but this, I think that there's a potential that more people have walked on the moon than finished a game of Campaign for North Africa. I would be happy to see the numbers on it.
Do you know what though? I think the problem, these types of games that were developed in the 80s were very heavily supposed to, these war games, classic war games, end of the Cold War, like, or even middle of the Cold War, they were designed to kind of try and as accurately as possible simulate, the things that had happened or were going to happen, right? And so there's a lot of admin, right? There's a lot of you spend a lot of time calculating yourself, right? But that's what led to the development of video game versions of it, like Hearts of Iron, right? Where so much of, imagine if you were playing Hearts of Iron, but you had to calculate everything yourself, all the logistics for each unit, and how many of them there, down to the man, like what their morale is like. It's some of these games love for you, like BattleTech, for example, love for you to calculate so much, right? I always use BattleTech as an example because it's a very complicated board game, but when you translate it into a digital game, there's not enough, right? When the developers, speaking to the developers of BattleTech, the game, and they were very much like, we've had to add in 5 times as many mechanics and complexity to this game because so much of the game is just calculating and keeping admin. And that I think that takes away from the game. Personally, I like there to be as little calculation as possible so I can focus on what's actually happening in front of me. Like, I often find that when I'm playing Warhammer, one of the things I dislike the most is that I think, okay, I'm going to get my guy and he's going to shoot your guy. And then by the time I've spent 10 minutes rolling dice, I've forgotten what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? I'm in a different frame of mind as well. I mean, when you're in a narrative mind and you're in like a D&D game, if you have to do a long bit of calculation, that puts you in some sort of mathematical mindset where you're out, and it breaks the immersion. It breaks the like the sort of the happy, joyous, like you have to think, where was I and what was I thinking at the time, and go back to that place. And you're doing that all the time. Yeah. From a game design point of view, I don't want to have, if I want to be accountant simulator, I think that's what the campaign for, quartermaster simulator, that's what some of these games are, right? Like, they're like logistics simulator. And I love those games as well, like Factorio and stuff, where you're planning out a vast thing to take this thing to over here and this thing to over there. I think these games that we play and get joy from are the natural evolutions of games like this. But this I'm sure the campaign for North Africa involves reams of paper, where you have to like distribute. Oh yeah, look, here you go. Distribute stores and consume stores. Calculate spillage of water. Yeah, it's insane. Distribute water. Determine weather. Hot weather means more evaporation of water. Yeah. Calculate attrition of units short of water. Transport cargo. Bring convoys ashore. Ship repair. Oh my god.
I mean, honestly, the rules book that I downloaded, it's a PDF, is 200 pages long. And you basically have so much to do that you need a person dedicated entirely to logistics. And their entire job is managing the logistics. Then someone else's job is moving supplies from the rear to the front. Then someone's job is security and handling of prisoners for that interior area behind the front. Then you have a frontline commander who's in charge of the actual front. And then you have someone in charge of the Air Force. That's 5 people per team. And can you imagine if your job for 1,200 hours is managing supply levels and evaporation of water?
Some people would love to do that. I know. I mean, not for 20 years.
Well, no.
Maybe. Well,
but there are a whole bunch of these. Most of them are World War II. I would say most of these monster board games seem to be World War II. And most of them seem to have been published in the 70s. And I think that's because once you got into the 80s and the 90s, especially now, there are more war games that are out there on computer. So you would just play it on computer, which reminds me of, this was the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. When you were younger and the internet didn't exist and you wanted to play games with your mates, you'd have to go over to their house to play games. Literally go over to their house and sit side by side to play games. What did you think was the solution to being able to play games, not having to go to each other's house, but remotely. Because the best thing we came up with was that one day we would run cables between people's houses.
We never had.
Wow.
I never even really thought about it, but I remember when I was young, there was a lot of like couch gaming with, like NES, Super NES, the first PlayStation when it came out. You didn't really think about it much then. It was just, that was the way it was. There wasn't an alternative.
Yeah.
Nobody really thought up a way for there to be an alternative or whatever. But I also had a PC, and I had friends who had PCs as well. And we did a lot of direct connect modem stuff. But it was so janky because it was over a phone line. So like, you'd have a connection. We'd play Duke Nukem 3D. We'd play Doom 2, and Warcraft 2. Those were the games that we would play direct connect. But you'd be in the middle of playing and you're like building some barracks, and then all of a sudden you'd be like, hello, who's on the phone? your mom would pick up the phone in the kitchen or whatever. Like it was annoying, right? Like it was cool, but it was annoying because you'd put up with it because you were a kid. But like if I was an adult and that was happening, somebody picking up the phone and wrecking the connection or whatever, it'd just be annoying, right? Like annoying to the point where you're like, oh God, I don't know if I can really be bothered with this. Like I'll just go get a console or whatever. It's a weird one, but like I don't remember anyone ever thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we could just do this in our own homes and play these games? Like I think part of the fun was that we were all together in somebody's basement, stinking it up playing Mario Party or whatever. Like nobody really thought like that there was any alternative to that. It was just that was just how it was, kind of thing. I think that's how we thought about it anyway, but. It was fun though.
Yeah,
I used to love doing that.
I just imagined this, like that one day games would be huge. Yeah, and that you would be. I had
maybe
some
you're like
idea.
A visionary, Maybe like you didn't realize it at the time, but you had these visions.
No, I just had an imagination and assumed it would never happen.
Yeah,
like the idea of the internet. It felt to me like no grown-ups were interested enough in this idea, so it wouldn't happen. Like that's how it felt. I was like, I could connect my house to your house with a cable, and maybe we could play games that way.
Yeah.
But it'll never happen. I didn't have any notion that you could use that for things like running businesses or anything useful like that.
That's the thing. Yeah.
I just saw it as a way to play video games, and I thought no grown-up's going to want to do that, so it'll never happen.
Yeah.
And then when online gaming came around, I just couldn't believe it. I could not believe that it was possible. And now you can play games like Hearts of Iron, and instead of having to manually go figure out the water evaporation rates on the Spanish front, the computer does it for you.
Yeah.
It's magic.
Yeah, I mean, it's been around for so long though. Online gaming, like there used to be like Microsoft Live. I mean, we're talking like mid '90s. Microsoft Live, Kali. Like there was a whole bunch of services that you could connect to play games, but you just had to have a good internet connection. Most people didn't because it was all dial-up. You know what I mean? Like I think some businesses had way better internet connections, depending what the nature of their business was. But I think things really sort of transformed when cable internet came out. In North America, for us, it was cable, because all of a sudden it was faster, and then all of a sudden services started popping up everywhere. Like BattleNet existed, and before that there was just, Warcraft 2 shipped. There was no BattleNet at the time. Like there was the option to direct connect and play with somebody, or to connect to like a service like Microsoft Live or whatever. But there was no baked in matchmaking service or lobby or anything like that. It just didn't exist. But the technology for actually playing against people remotely was there. But it just depends on how much your phone bill you wanted to pay, I guess, like.
It's surprising how still there is a lot of that happening. A lot of the time, like whenever I want a game on like a board game, I have to, I go on the TTS Discord, and there's usually people, you can post a little thing saying looking for game or whatever. There's a lot of people still do that sort of lobby-based system. I mean, the original, God, we talked about this tons of times, but yeah, like it's a different world, but there's still some things that are basically the same. I want to know more about these forgotten disasters, Flax.
Oh, okay. Oh, I closed down the tab. Hold on. I'll get it
really?
back. I honestly didn't think you guys would want to hear about them. I found a few more.
I'm fascinated by that stuff.
All right, let
honestly.
me bring one up. So,
yeah.
All right, the Victoria Hall disaster. This is terrible. This is 1883 in Sunderland.
We're back on it.
Shall I regret this?
The distribution of toys caused a crowd crush, resulting in 183 kids getting crushed to death.
Oh, that's real bad.
Yeah, they were giving away these prizes. They were like, it was like a show. It was like a variety show for these two traveling entertainers, and the kids go there and they're told that there were toys. And when the kids heard this, that a certain number of kids with like, there were numbered tickets and they'd get prizes. A bunch of little kids were worried they wouldn't get their prize. So they all ran down there to try to get their tickets, and a bunch of them got crushed. Awful. Absolutely awful. You know, it's when you read about these forgotten disasters, that's one of the reasons why people that complain about things like safety regulations and fire regulations and occupancy restrictions, and they're like, why can't we just get on with it? Why do we have to be told what to do? It's health and safety. It's gone mad. Is because you don't know about the Victoria Hall disaster and there was that club in Romania, I think, where there was a fire and there was only one fire exit and it was locked and fucking hundreds of people burned to death or choked. All this shit that you've forgotten about or haven't heard about or never knew about or will never have to experience anything like were the precursor to some dumb rule. So 1,000 kids untethered at a place like this that didn't have the standards that you have nowadays, this is what you fucking get. And awful disasters. The sort of thing that we just don't really hear about as much in this country these days, because people are more safety conscious. Because once you've had that, you think, fuck me, we can't have this happening again. This is terrible. So you bring in laws and restrictions, and you get people who are experts in safety to try to make shit safe. Like, I know someone told me that if you're ever out driving, especially in the countryside, and you see, like, you know those arrows? It's like arrows at the side of the road, like black and white arrows that point in the direction that a curve is going. They don't just put those down everywhere. Generally speaking, if there's been an accident of some kind, they're like, how did this happen? They look into it. It turns out a certain time of day, certain speed, certain whatever. You can't really see the bend. So they put these things there to prevent a future accident. So one happens, people investigate, they realize there's a problem. Tom Scott did a video on this. There's a road, I think it was in Dorset somewhere, and the angle of these two roads approaching it to the intersection meant that you had more accidents there than at any other intersection in the country. And if you were in a car, your blind spot of the sort of the pillar of your front windshield meant you couldn't see like an oncoming cyclist or an oncoming car. And if you were both at a certain speed, it was just bad luck. The angle of this intersection meant that was the case. So now we have all kinds of rules, and you wouldn't design an intersection like that. But this one was designed like that. So I find it interesting to read about these things, because you could then imagine why they brought in some safety restriction, why you have maximum occupancy, why you have barriers here, or things that seem awkward. It's because of shit like this.
Well, I wonder, like, how much of the world is designed for reasons that we don't, like, when you're on Google Earth and you see like something and you're like, what the hell is this? There must be a reason why stuff, like, I know there's a problem with like east-west roads or something because, like direct sunlight of, glare, right? And so you shouldn't be designing roads like that, but a lot of people just do it anyway. And I wonder how many lessons are unheeded, but also how many are heeded that we don't know about. That is interesting to me. So if there's a book, give it to me. It's like that QI, stuff, right? That's what I want to hear. Right, go on. What's the next disaster?
All right, let's do one more. Here's one that's a bit more upbeat. The Johnstown flood. This is terrible. This was a dam. This was 1889.
It's really terrible.
Sometimes called the Great Flood of 1889. A dam failed at the South Fork of the Little Connemore River in Pennsylvania, and 14.5 million cubic meters of water came steaming down.
People.
No, 2,208 people were killed.
That's
and
still a lot.
About $500 million in modern money of damage was done the dam failed, and it basically all this water came steaming into town and just wiped it out. Absolutely wiped it out. It was just absolutely abysmal. It was the disaster was the largest loss of civilian life in the U.S. at that time. Up until the 1900 Galveston hurricane, and of course 9/11. But the Galveston hurricane, this was 8,000 people died in the Galveston hurricane.
Jesus.
This was in 1900, and it just smashed into Texas.
Is that Texas? Galveston,
Yeah, Texas.
Texas.
Galveston hurricane.
Absolutely.
I only know about Galveston, Texas because of the Jinx. Remember the guy he killed his neighbor, you remember?
What was his name?
Cut him up. Robert
Oh God.
The billionaire.
The billionaire heir.
Robert Durst.
Robert
Durst,
what a
that's
fucking weird guy.
He's dead. He died, didn't he?
Oh, did he? Oh, thank
Kind of
God.
recently, yeah. I think he died in jail, actually.
Good
He was
riddance.
quite ill. But
Apparently, it's going to be a Jinx part 2.
What is the
Oh.
part 2? I mean, that was honestly, it was such a fascinating story. It was amazing to me, the desperation in the documentary
and the burping.
makers.
You know, at the end when he's in the toilet and he's still got a hot mic. And
he's
just
like,
been in the. Oh,
'cause you
they
did it.
know. They figured
they
it
know.
out.
Yeah. Why do they know?
I was
'Cause
so
you-
nervous.
Because you did it. Yeah, it was weird.
And the burping. He was burping, burping the whole time,
Oh,
nervously
man.
burping through the whole interview.
So the Galveston hurricane, the highest point in Galveston was only 2 meters above sea level. The hurricane brought a storm surge 4 meters deep that just washed over the entire island and just fucking killed all these people. It's just terrible.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That is insane.
God. So no, but I mean the Victorian era, like these hurricanes and floods, you know, it was all a kind of, you know, the idea was that it was like a golden era, you know, a gilded age of no health and safety where anyone can do what they want and build anything they want. But of course, we're all humans and everyone's going to do it for the cheapest they possibly can and the bare minimum effort, you know. They're going to skimp out and they're going to use the fewest nails they can find and they're going to be made of you know, the wrong material. I mean, everyone was just shonkily, you know, given no shits. And it would be the same way today if people could get away with it. You do see this stuff even on TikTok, right? Of like snagging. It's like a new build house and the whole thing is like completely fucked, right? Yeah. And it's just because the builders have like the walls hanging off and all the power sockets have like got water running behind them. Do you know what I mean? It's like a fucking nightmare. But
so
yeah,
the 1931 China floods, the Yangtze Huai River floods.
Okay, before you go on, the 1931 China floods. Now, this is something I've obviously never
This is
heard
something
of,
he holds dear to his heart. He knows all about it.
but let's just imagine how many people died here.
Okay, have
because
a guess. Let's play this game. How many died?
we've already done a flood in Galveston.
That was a hurricane.
That was a hurricane, and it killed 8,000 people. The flooding of the Yangtze River, I'm going to say like 30,000 people.
You are so far. You are off by possibly a factor of 100.
Wow. Okay.
What?
4 million is the upper end of the estimation.
Jesus.
So about 300,000 people straight up drowned when this river flooded.
Oh, man.
But several million starved to death as a result of this flood. It is absolutely appalling.
I did not realize that.
The top 3 are all China. This is like death tolls. The 1887 Yellow River flood, 2 million people. And the 1976 Tangshan earthquake. Have a guess how many people died of the 1976 Tangshan earthquake?
Another
I'm
thing
going to
I've
say
never
like
heard
10
of.
million.
No, not quite that
I don't
many.
want to be wrong this time.
That's fair.
In an earthquake. So they can be very dangerous.
Yeah, they can.
Earthquakes.
Between 250,000 people died in this earthquake. Absolutely unbelievable. Like just terrible. Terrible. An 8.1.
Flip.
I mean,
that's a big one.
Is this because there's just a lot of people there in
I mean,
these
yes,
areas?
there
Are
are
they,
those.
are they
That's a
very
factor in it,
fertile?
for
Are they
sure.
very like? Is it because it's flood? I'm not saying this is the case, but is it because it floods that it is fertile or that it can support a lot of population? Do you know what I mean? Are these things linked?
Well, I mean, certainly I'd say population density. So, I mean, for example, looking at the deadliest natural disasters in the 20th century, the top 10 that I see here, until we get a country that I would not list as being like one of those densely populated countries. So China, India, China, Bangladesh, Japan, North Vietnam, I don't think is as densely populated, but maybe it was. Oh, it's Hanoi. So yeah. But then we get to the 1908 Messina earthquake in Italy. 82,000 people died.
Jesus.
In this earthquake. I mean, remember back then, first of all, aid relief and rescue efforts would have been extremely basic compared to modern standards. Nowadays, there's an earthquake. People are there within the hour, like solving problems, helping people out, digging people out.
Well, they can even sort of, to some extent, predict, well, not predict earthquakes, but get early warnings, right? At least that's something we're even considering. And certainly that is something you can do with tsunamis, right, as well. Like I know the Asian tsunami that killed a lot of people in 2004, I want to say, 2007. Can't remember. That was something that was sort of very unexpected, right? There wasn't a lot of early warnings for it, and as a result, a lot of people were caught off guard. But I guess like if a tsunami happens off the coast of Western Sahara, there's no one there. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not. But if it happens, outside a major tourist population center with millions of people on the beach, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
And I think it might not. I don't want to say it's bad luck, because I mean, that this stuff happens all the time. There's always some natural disaster going on in the world, right? But a lot of it happens in areas that doesn't have an impact, or doesn't no one lives there.
Yeah. Like Tunguska. You know about Tunguska?
Is that the one that killed the dinosaurs?
No, this was an impact in Siberia, and here I'll read to you about it. Tunguska.
What was the one that killed the dinosaurs called?
That was, oh gosh, I could tell you if I had 5 minutes to think about it.
Chicxulub.
Yeah, the Chicxulub crater. That's like where the Gulf of Mexico is essentially a big crater. So
it's like off the coast of Ecuador, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like that's where they think
where they think the big one landed.
Yeah, the big one
just absolutely fried the planet for millions of years.
Because they found like ejecta, which is like the shrapnel, if you like, from these big impacts, fucking miles away.
Oh yeah, well there would have been. I mean, it was fucking
it's just
huge.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. So the Tunguska event, which sounds like an SCP entry, but is actually real, was this 3 to 5 megaton explosion in 1908, and it was in very sparsely populated eastern Siberia. And they think it was a meteor airburst. That's what they think it was. The atmospheric explosion of a stony asteroid about 200 feet across, about 60 meters wide. And it came in, probably got unstable as it's coming through the atmosphere, and basically exploded about 5 to 10 kilometers up. So it didn't hit the Earth's surface, so it left no crater, just exploded.
Yeah.
Flattened this vast area of forest, about 830 square miles, just completely flattened and devastated by this explosion. But yeah, I mean, you can imagine that could have happened over London.
Yeah,
but it didn't. So things like that. Obviously, the Earth is very big. Most of it is water, so much of this shit is going to come crashing down in the water. But
how does 3 megatons compare to like a nuke?
I think the one that was detonated over Hiroshima was that 1 megaton?
I think it was. Yeah.
Let's have a look. History of
we've got the facts at our fingertips in this day and age. Just a quick search, you can answer any question you might have.
Maybe it was bigger.
It's 15 kilotons.
So a megaton is 1,000 of those. A kiloton is 1,000. Megaton is a million. I don't know. Fucking hell, I'll look it up. I'm so stupid. So let me see. Megaton is shit. We're so bad at this. Grams of TNT. It's like it goes kiloton, megaton, gigaton.
Nice.
Okay, so the biggest one ever dropped was the Tsar bomber.
The Tsar bomber,
that was the famous Soviet one that was
megatons,
super
isn't
big.
it? That one.
That was about 50 to 60 megatons.
Jesus,
and that was dropped in like the middle of absolutely fucking nowhere.
Yeah, they were just testing it. And but what about the little fat man and big boy Barry?
Big boy and little boy.
They dropped. Big lad and strapping man.
Big bouncing boy.
Little boy was 15.
15 megatons.
Wow. 15 kilotons.
Oh, so much smaller.
Much smaller.
So 0.015 megatons.
Wow.
Right.
So Tunguska was 6 of those.
Holy crap.
Yes. No, 0.015. So 60 of those.
Good God.
So 60 of the bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima. Yeah, it's a huge bomb.
Massive.
Huge. I mean, it would have absolutely devastated any population center, right?
Yeah.
Like, would have, and I guess it did. I mean, I guess it destroyed like a very large area, right?
Yeah, it was massive. I mean, it was a vast area.
80 million trees over 2,000 square kilometers.
Yeah, crazy.
Up to 3 people may have died.
Gosh, what a disaster.
In that.
Yeah, that's fucking unlucky. You're in the middle of Siberia thinking there's no way anything bad's going to happen here. I'm just going to stay warm. And then a fucking space throws a rock at you, the equivalent to 60 Hiroshima bombs. You're like, what are the fucking chances? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people think it was a gigantic meteoroid about the size of, well, not that big, 65 meters across.
Doesn't need to be that big. It's going that fast. Hits atmosphere. I mean, think of it. You're traveling at ridiculous speeds out there in space. All of a sudden, you're in atmosphere. It's like that XKCD comic about what would happen if a picture threw a baseball at the speed of light. Did you see that one?
No.
That's quite a good one.
I think David Wells from the Toronto Blue Jays did that one time. During the World Series 1992.
Damn. What a picture. But either way, look it up. Basically, because the ball's traveling at the speed of light in atmosphere, it causes like this expanding shockwave of plasma and annihilates everything for miles around. It's a funny comic. It's worth reading. So you got something traveling at, I don't know how fast they'd be traveling, maybe 20,000 kilometers an hour or something stupid like that. Like very fucking fast. You hit the atmosphere. Something that big. It's like it's like firing a bullet at the Earth, but the bullet is the size of the moon. You know, fucking scary.
It's amazing this sort of thinking about this sort of physics stuff. Like you know, like it's energy and like there was some I watched this video about railguns being tested. And they're so powerful. Yeah. They fuck up the actual gun. I think the gun can like fire like 8 times before it's fucked. Or something.
Like that's what's preventing them being viable. Is not that it doesn't do insane damage and is super accurate and amazing. The problem is it breaks the gun to shoot it. Like every gun that when you shoot an actual, like just a regular rifle or whatever, there's wear and tear on it because as the round travels through the barrel, it's eating away at the barrel and all the components, and it's all very gradually going to wear down. And even if you keep it clean, eventually the gun's just going to bits are going to break through wear and tear. But the railgun is so powerful that you can't even fire it like a dozen times before it just breaks apart because it's so violent.
Really good in Helldivers. In general, chat, I posted a couple of pictures of David Wells.
Look at David Wells, what a fucking man!
I know. If anyone's going to pitch one at the speed of light, this guy would have done it.
It's Wellsy.
The fucking power behind that.
This guy's got a hell of a gut on him.
Yeah. Well, it's he's got a hell of an arm on him too. You wouldn't want to get in the way of that. It'd be like getting shot. The gun.
I mean, let me look up Big Sexy, which is my Bartolo Colon, my favorite baseball player ever. I'll copy a picture of Bartolo Colon. This lad was a big fucking lad. Let me see if I can paste this here.
I can't just Google Big Sexy. I mean,
you can.
You can, absolutely.
Look at him. Look at this lad.
Look at the size
of him. This lad's great.
He's a unit.
So he played for the Mets. He was a tremendous pitcher. And he hit a home run in a game. This is when pitchers used to actually bat. He had a home run and everybody goes fucking nuts. People would come to the games with giant Bartolo Colon cutout heads and stuff like that. He was a legend. He was a legend. Just I think he was a reliever, but everybody loved him.
Back in the day, I used to really like Jose Canseco, but I think he's been canceled since.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure he has been, yeah.
Oh my God. I wonder if he's like Kyle Walker, another enemy of the podcast.
Performance enhancing drugs.
Another enemy of the fun. No, I don't think we have any specific beef with Jose Canseco. I just remember hearing recently that he was canceled.
He was arrested for beating his wife in 1997. But back in 1997, that was that was no big deal.
No,
nowadays, fast forward to the 21st century, and we realize that maybe that is a big deal. In his younger
years, he almost looked like Hasselhoff-esque, didn't he?
He did have a Hass. He did have
a bit of a Hoff.
A little Hoff about him.
Hoff about him, yeah.
He had a bit of Hoff.
And what about other baseball greats? Darryl Strawberry.
Darryl Strawberry, what a legend. Also played for the Mets.
Pete Rose. You remember Pete Rose? I think he did a lot of cocaine. Yeah.
Pete Rose went nuts.
He went nuts. I used to have a Pete Rose hologram sticker in my Panini Major League Baseball sticker book when I was about 7 years old. I had Pete Rose. I had Darryl Strawberry up in there. Jose Canseco. I remember really liking baseball at the time when I was younger.
Yeah.
Some good baseballers. That I used to really like the Toronto Blue Jays, and they had an all-star team for a couple of years. They won a couple of World Series back to back. They had a great team, and it was really exciting. The Blue Jays, Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Like Kelly Gruber and Joe Carter and a bunch of other greats at the time, and it was great. I remember everybody loved it. Like I went out to visit my grandparents for the summer, and the World Series was on, and they were loving it. Man, it was crazy. We were having like hot dogs every night for dinner and stuff. Man, good times.
Yeah, I love
dogs.
Baseball.
Yeah.
Love baseball.
Take me out to the ball game.
Well,
got to get the weenies.
do you want
Go on.
Do you want some news?
Yeah.
It's sports news.
Oh.
Famous and celebrated French footballer Hugo Lloris.
Yeah.
Lloris.
Hugo Lloris.
Left.
How is it Lloris?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah. He was Spurs goalkeeper for fucking 10 years or whatever. Yeah.
He. Cloris.
Hugo Lloris is how it
I
was
thought it
pronounced.
was Welsh.
No.
Hugo.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh my god, man.
Hugo Lloris, yeah.
He's now playing for Los Angeles Football Club.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
He's probably winding down now.
I think that's Beckham's
I
team.
think it's where they go to wind down.
According to him, he said the reason he moved to LA was because he liked GTA and he wanted to
Are you fucking kidding me?
to California.
Oh, why not,
So he
man?
wants to do the driving around San Andreas IRL. I wonder if he's going to get the
He
soundtrack.
just wants to listen to
from
some
GTA
He wants to listen to
and
some
stick it
late
on.
night hype while he's cruising around. Why not?
That's
I
amazing.
mean, totally understandable, really. The GTA 5 really does promote that.
It has an insane soundtrack.
Coast.
Yeah.
I want
lifestyle.
to go to LA and start a gang, and perhaps me and CJ will get back at it again, huh? You know?
Okay, thank you, Hugo. In non-sports news, in pop culture news, Durex condoms.
Yeah.
Never used them.
The owner of them,
You
Reckitt.
use Trojans, right?
Re-
mate?
No, I
Reckitt
never.
Ben-
I just
Bensica?
never used anything because I've got fucking a million kids. So that was the reference.
You don't need to anymore, P-Flax.
No,
you know.
Flax doesn't need to. Yeah, you're right.
I didn't say it.
Mm.
I haven't used a condom in fucking 30 years, probably, whatever. I can't remember when the last time I used one was.
That's a pretty good.
You
we
remember
should
that
celebrate
episode
that.
of Curb when he puts the condom with like the numbing stuff on the wrong way, and Cheryl's vagina goes like all numb for. Oh man!
I don't think I've used one this century, Johnny. I'll be honest. I used one back in the day when we were still young, but then Mrs. F was on the pill. Like I think a lot of women in long-term relationships, it's just much easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
So apparently, it's quite difficult. It's using live streaming to sell
Live streaming
condoms.
a Johnny.
I'm not quite sure what this news article is.
That doesn't make any fucking sense, mate. What are you talking about?
Live streaming a Johnny.
Live streaming a bloody Johnny, mate. What are you talking about?
Oh man!
I don't know what this article is. Okay, I'm
All right,
not
skip.
reading anymore.
Next. Tom, cut that. Tom, cut that.
Destiny and Halo composer, someone O'Donnell, Marty O'Donnell,
Yeah.
is running for a Republican House seat,
Right.
a congressional seat.
Right.
Okay.
Video game composer, Destiny and Halo composer, Marty O'Donnell. If you like video games, you like Republican. If you hate abortion, you should check him out.
Vote Marty O'Donnell.
Gosh,
Marty O'Donnell.
it's crazy.
He has described himself as a boomer.
Right.
And a federalist. He found himself yelling at the news. If you find yourself yelling at the
I
news,
feel like if you find yourself yelling at the news, you are not an ideal candidate for politics. I don't think anybody
Maybe
wants
have-
you to be.
maybe book yourself
in
a little trip
politics.
to the Canary Islands.
Maybe go and find something to do where you can get a grip on your life, where you're not yelling at a television like a psycho. And please do not enter the political arena, because there's already enough psychotic people there, and we just don't need any more. What we need now, I think, is just some sensible people in politics. So if you find yourself screaming at your TV, go find something else to do. Do us all a favor.
Amen.
Preach.
Hey, I got not news, but I've got a bit of old news. I just saw this post on Reddit the other day. This morning. Do you want to hear this?
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
The London-Kolkata bus service.
Is this a disaster that's been forgotten?
Not a disaster.
Is this a Wes Anderson movie?
This is not a Wes Anderson movie either.
No.
This was a bus service that ran from London to Calcutta, which is now called Kolkata.
Right.
It was the longest bus route in the world. Started in 1957. It went to India via Belgium, and not just Belgium. It says here via Belgium, Yugoslavia, and northwestern India, but passed through a fair few countries other than those three.
Right.
It's the hippie trail,
the
right?
hippie route, yeah. It took 50 days to get to Calcutta from London. Voyage was over 10,000 miles one way, 20,300 miles round trip, and it cost 85 quid in 1957, which included food, travel, and accommodation. The facilities on the bus: it had reading facilities, separate sleeping bunks for all passengers, fan-operated heaters, and a kitchen. Forward observation lounge on the upper deck. It was more like a tour. You didn't just get on the bus and fucking settle down. It was like a proper trip. There was a radio and music system
There's
for
some
parties
teenagers
on the
at
bus.
the back.
Yeah. And you could, it stopped for shopping, and it would spend time at tourist destinations. It sounds fucking amazing.
It's like a cruise, but in a bus.
Yeah.
There's a show on Channel 4 about going on a bus trip. Maybe it's a bit like that. You know, what is it called?
What's it called?
It's not 4 on a bus. I think it's 4 in a bed. That's like the bed and breakfast.
Is it called Coach Trip?
Coach Trip, I think is
Coach
the
Trip.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a show that Mrs. F watches, which is like a competition. People have to get from A to B as fast as possible, but they can't use planes. Have you seen this? They're given a certain amount of money. It's like they go in pairs. They just have to go, right, you've got to go from London to LA, but the long way round, and you've got 30 days to do it.
Oh,
like
around the world.
Yeah.
And
there's loads of those.
There's one on the
loads of those.
BBC that's quite good, actually.
That's the one Mrs. F likes.
It's really good.
Is it called
I've watched all the series of it.
Quest or something?
No, it's called The
thought you'd
Amazing
like it.
Race.
Amazing Race.
There was one, they did one recently where it was through Canada, but again, through all the remote bits and stuff, they were ending up in places where, a train would only run out of there on a Thursday at 6 a.m. and that was it. And if you missed that, you were stuck there and you would probably lose the race and stuff. They have a budget, and then they have to they can take any means to get to where they need to go, but they have to visit these places because they have to sort of check in. They're like checkpoints, right? So you can't just go from Vancouver straight to Calgary because it's too easy. You have to go from Vancouver up to fucking Fort Wayne, which is in the middle of goddamn nowhere, some shit like that. That's where the checkpoint is. So you have to check into all these checkpoints, and ideally you get there first.
You have to circumnavigate the globe.
And however much time you get to the checkpoint before everyone else is how much time you have as a head start for the next one. So it's a place. So you get to this checkpoint, and then it's a nice hotel. They get to wash, rest, whatever, because when they're traveling for days or weeks at a time to get to the checkpoints, they're on such a small budget. They're just eating bread on a bus and sleeping on a bus and sleeping in hostels and kind of depending on people's goodwill. They can stop sometimes. They'll stop at a egg farm and they'll be like, okay, well, clean out the chickens all day and we'll cook you a meal and you can sleep here. And they're always okay, yeah, great, because they can save money doing that or whatever. But it's really good. It's really well done, and the people that they get are
Guess
interesting
how many
as well.
seasons of The Amazing Race US there have been?
20.
More. 36.
36. Okay, I've never watched the American one, but the UK one is pretty good. I like it.
Huh. Oh, wait. Just a last thing that I can think of this week, and then this has been an hour and 15. Let's see if let's all have our last point.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're going to be here all day. I've got to go shopping.
All right.
So the Cerveza Cristal memes. Have you seen these?
No.
So
Cerveza Cristal.
Yeah. So
memes.
in 2003, they aired the original Star Wars movie in Chile. They didn't want to have ad breaks, so they had product placement in the film. They edited product placement in the film. So if you look these up, if anyone listens to this, if you haven't heard it, Cerveza Cristal, look it up. Obi-Wan, in the scene where he goes, "Your father was the greatest star pilot in the galaxy," and he reaches into a box to get his lightsaber, and then they cut to a guy's hand with a robe kind of like Obi-Wan's, reaching into an icebox to grab a beer, and it plays the music, Cerveza Cristal, and the logo comes middle of the screen, and then it cuts back to the movie like it's carrying on like normal.
Stupid.
It is amazing.
So
look it up. They won an award. This won an award for most innovative advertising campaign.
Oh god.
Fuck off.
That's good.
It's amazing.
That's good. I'm currently monitoring the Epic Games public status for the Fortnite services to come online because I'm under strict instructions from my son. There's a new season of Fortnite starting today, and he said, "Dad, I've saved up all my V-Bucks for the Battle Pass, and can you please update the game so that when I get home from school, I don't have to sit there for an hour updating the game." So
because all his mates are going to want to fucking play
that's
it right
it.
away.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna get it all ready for him. God bless him. He's gaming, man. He's loving it. Yeah,
lad's a gamer. Let's fucking go.
He's loving it. Yeah,
get him into Dotes. We need some good young British players coming
my
through.
God.
Actually, don't do that. You'd ruin his life. Yeah.
No.
Lulu, you're last. Last from Lulu.
Sorry, I'm eating a
Yeah, there
bar.
we go. He's eating an oat bar.
Just
All right.
live, laugh, love.
We'll see you next time, everyone.
That concludes our podcast. God bless. Goodbye.
We love you.
Yeah.
We love you.
All right.
See you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.